Adept English 7 Rules of Adept English Rule 2. Hi there, this is Rule 2 of our free 7 Rules of Adept English course. So if you remember yesterday, I was telling you that the first rule of Adept English is listening and understanding is the most important task of learning. And remember, this only works if you understand 70 to 80% of what you're listening to. But if you focus on listening in this way, it will massively improve your English. And hearing lots of English and understanding it will improve your fluency in spoken English. Well, today, the second rule of Adept English, Rule 2. This is simply practice. Practice, P-R-A-C-T-I-S-E. That's the verb. To practice something means you repeat it until you become better at it. So when we talk about practice in English, we mean listening many times to the same thing. And just a note about that word practice, in UK English, the noun has a C, P-R-A-C-T-I-C-E, and the verb has an S, P-R-A-C-T-I-S-E. That's useful. So some more about practicing. So many of the skills that we learn in life improve with practice. If you were learning to drive a car and you had your first driving lesson, you wouldn't then say, "Oh, there it is, I've had my first lesson. Now I can drive." That would be ridiculous. We know that's not going to work after one lesson. No, these things take time and they take practice. The more driving you do, the sooner you will pass your driving test. And there are lots of examples of how we achieve amazing things with repetition, with practice. We can think of lots of examples from sport and from music, whether it's tennis or football, learning to swim or ride a bike, or playing the piano or the flute, or any other musical instrument. You can become skilled at these things only through practice, through repeating them many times. Nothing else works. And we know that language learning works in this way too. What maybe we don't recognize so easily is that when we hear a new word, a new phrase, or a new part of a verb, we're not going to remember it if we heard it once. Even if we hear it 5 times, we may still not remember it. Actually, we need to hear new words or phrases used around 30 times before we start to remember them automatically. Do you remember the word brain, B-R-A-I-N, from the Rule 1 of Adept English video? The brain is in here, and it often works in a very automatic way. When we practice a skill, when we repeat it lots of times, we are moving this skill from the part of our brain where we think and try hard to the part of our brain which does things automatically. This is the part of our brain that our skills operate from. So to be fluent in a language, it needs to be practiced enough so that it becomes automatic. That means no translating. I always say translation is the enemy of fluency. Listening to the same words in spoken English again and again means that you start to understand them in English. No need to translate. And this mirrors our natural way of learning a language like a child and is different from the usual teaching method. In Rule 2 and generally at Adept English, we encourage you to try and think in English. By practicing, by repeat listening, we help you grow the English part of your brain so you can enjoy a podcast or a piece of spoken English without thinking in your own language at all. Your brain does it in English. No translation. That's really important. So Rule 2 of the 7 Rules of Adept English says, practice by repetition helps your English become automatic. This is the only way to fluency. Think about when you hear a favourite song on the radio. You can probably sing along with the words. But have you ever written those words out and tried consciously to learn them? Probably not. No, you know the words, you can sing along because you've heard the song lots of times. And if you learn English in this same way by repeating your listening, you will quite quickly arrive at understanding the most common words in English conversation. And what's even better is that when you come to speak, those words which have become automatic for you will also be automatic when you're speaking. Your brain will serve them up quickly enough to speak fluently. It takes time to get to that point, so be patient. You have to do quite a lot of listening before you can speak. Understanding always comes before speaking. How many repeats do you need to learn something? Well, the estimate is we need to hear a word repeated 30 times before we remember it. And the more times you listen, the more repeats of each word you hear. And each listen moves you nearer to fluency. The good news is, if you can understand this video, then you already have a great vocabulary. And listening to Adept English will increase that naturally, bit by bit. In the podcasts and the episodes and the courses, I focus on the words that you may not know and spell them out and explain them. But all the time you're hearing hundreds of words that you're already in the process of learning. So a typical 12-minute recording might contain 1,800 words. If you listen to it twice, you've heard 3,600 words in English. And if you listen 3 times, you've heard 5,400 words in English. And you'll be completely unaware of this. You'll just be enjoying the topic. It will take time. It's not going to work overnight. But if you listen for 30 minutes a day for 3 months, imagine how many word repetitions your brain has heard and how many more connections there are in your brain which move you towards speaking fluently. You can see how this works. At Adept English, we aim to make our topics enjoyable and interesting. Much online language learning content is really boring. That's boring. And we refuse to be boring. If you don't like a topic we're covering, just move on to the next piece. You'll find plenty to enjoy and at the right level. Listening is so much more fun than grammar and vocabulary lists. So you'll be happy to listen for longer and your brain will still be doing its task of learning, just it'll be unconscious. Rule 2 again, practice by repetition helps your English become automatic. And this is the only way to fluency. Think about how many words I've used here to describe Rule 2. If you made a vocabulary list of all the words I've used, it would be a long one. And if you tried to learn it that way, it would be really hard work. The great news is you don't need to do that. You just need to listen. Work on your understanding of what I'm saying and repeat your listening. So practice by repetition helps your English become automatic. This is the only way to fluency, but it's an enjoyable one. See you tomorrow for Rule 3.